Welcome back to Close Up. Saturday night, Democrats gathered for their Eleanor Roosevelt dinner. The headline speaker, Pete Buttigieg, the surprise second-place finisher in the 2020 First in the Nation primary, who is now the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. It's an interesting tightrope the man formerly known as Mayor Pete is walking right now. He's adhering to the Hatch Act, which prevents executive branch employees from campaigning for themselves or others. But he is treading on obvious political turf here in the Granite State. And observers say he's sending a clear message about his own political future just by coming here. We spoke with Secretary Buttigieg ahead of his visit.
Mr. Secretary, you've been on the road a lot, showcasing the projects being funded by the infrastructure bill. But right now, in our national politics, the conversation is being dominated by big issues like abortion and inflation. So do you think that infrastructure really rates right now with most people who are paying attention to what's going on?
Well, I think the bipartisan infrastructure law and the president's vision for improving our infrastructure across the country is something the American people support strongly or are glad to see happen. I do think because it is bipartisan, because there's less of a hot controversy, it sometimes gets less attention, especially now that we successfully got the legislation through and we're out doing the spade work, sometimes literally, of getting these things funded and built and set up. I do think, though, it's important to remind people that this is an example of the results you can get when you work across the aisle, when you have strong leadership, when you focus on what people really need and what the economy really needs. And that's why I have been on the road a lot, trying to illustrate what it actually looks like when you do these infrastructure improvements, from ports to streets to airports to transit, that we as a country have needed for a long time, and we're finally now able to achieve.
So the roads and bridges get fixed, but the cost of everything is going up. And inflation is that hidden tax that everyone feels even more so when they're at the bottom of the economic ladder. The medicine you have to take as a nation to cure that isn't always pleasant. So do you really think that spending more money at the government level makes the problem better?
Well, it certainly is going to make the problem better to have more quality infrastructure and more efficient goods movement. And the reason is, part of what creates upward pressure on prices is when you have inefficiencies in our supply chain. Part of the inefficiencies in our supply chain come from bridges that are out, or they're in such bad shape that heavy trucks are not allowed to go on them, so they have to go around on a longer route, and that burns fuel, wastes people's time, and it costs money and adds to shipping costs. That's just one example of something where, kind of like a leaky roof, if you don't make the investments, you might think you're saving money in the short term, but it's going to cost you in the long term. That applies to the entire economy. And so the sooner we can improve the quality of our infrastructure, the more we can reduce the pressure on shipping costs that is part of the picture when it comes to inflation.
Mr. Secretary, you recently called out the airlines, saying the delays and air traffic snarls that we saw all summer long were just plain unacceptable. Take us through what's being done to resolve these significant issues.
Well, we're doing three things at once. Number one, enforcement action. We have investigations underway right now on airlines that may not have followed the rules or followed the law in terms of things like offering people refunds. So that's the first set of activities. Secondly, we're looking at the rules that are on the books and making them tougher. We've got rules that are right now going through the federal process on things like the access to refunds you should be able to get, how you get treated when there's a delay or a cancellation. The third thing that we're doing, and one that has been, I think, very encouraging in terms of how powerful it's been, is using the department's power just in terms of transparency. We created an online dashboard. You can go see it on our website that lays out how airlines treat passengers when there are issues like cancellations or delays. And in just 2 weeks, we went from 0 airlines promising in writing that they would provide things like hotel or meal vouchers when there's cancellation or delay, to 8 or 9 out of the top 10 airlines doing so. So we're going to continue doing all three of those things: enforcing the rules we have, toughening the rules that are on the books, and using other tools like transparency to get results for passengers. And we're going to do everything and anything that's going to help create a better air travel experience. I've seen some encouraging trends in terms of coming off of this tough summer that we had. The cancellation rate right now this month is back in the neighborhood of 1%, which is what you would expect to see in kind of a typical month before all of these disruptions happen. But we're not out of the woods, and we're going to continue staying closely on these processes to hold airlines accountable and to support passengers.
We talked about inflation. I'm curious, Mr. Secretary, for your perspective on the national conversation on abortion right now.
Well, it's certainly something that I think has many, many Americans upset and concerned, and is motivating a high level of civic involvement right now. Look, you've got a lot of people in Washington who have said for a long time that they would do this if they got the chance. Still, it's different, I think, for millions of Americans, for millions of women to see that right that has existed for as long as I've been alive, to see that right taken away, to see that right to choose withdrawn. And now you have congressional Republicans advancing legislation to create a national ban on a right to abortion, which is just going the next step over and beyond what the Supreme Court has done, that is itself very much out of step with what most Americans believe. So I do think this is going to remain front and center. Our administration has made clear our commitment to these rights and freedoms, and it's deeply troubling to see how they've been stripped away.
When you were here in 2019 and 2020, you had a lot to say about the tone and tenor of American politics. And since then, if anything, it's gotten a little bit darker and potentially more dangerous. So I'm interested in your thoughts on the direction of the country, particularly your new perspective now from being kind of inside the bubble in Washington.
Well, there's really two very different sets of things happening. On one hand, we have seen a lot of elected officials here in Washington on board with extremist rhetoric, with things as extreme as trying to overturn an election, making excuses for a physical attack on the U.S. Capitol, and that's deeply disturbing. On the other hand, we've seen real bipartisan cooperation, something the president has always believed in. You know, frankly, people scoffed when he said that you could get anything done on a bipartisan basis. And yet you have something like this infrastructure law that Democrats and Republicans, at least a good number of Republicans, crossed over to work with us on, that I think demonstrates that it's still possible. And then on priorities like the Inflation Reduction Act, of course, we were disappointed that all of the Republicans who voted on this voted against letting Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices, voted against $35 a month insulin for Americans. But I still count that as a bipartisan achievement because Americans, left, right, and center, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, believed in that and supported it. Maybe not on Capitol Hill, but out around the country, that's an example of an agenda that brings people together because most Americans think it's obviously the right thing to do.
Because of the Hatch Act, we know you can't say anything that could be construed as campaigning for yourself or others, but we do want to ask you about New Hampshire's first in the nation primary. Obviously, the early state voting calendar is under reconsideration by the DNC. There's a process going on there. Irrespective of that conversation, I want to talk to you about your experience in 2019 and 2020. What value did you find in the process here? Was it special, or is this just any other state?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a little bit constrained talking about campaigns while I'm sitting in this office. But what I will say is that my experience in New Hampshire was one that gave me a great deal of admiration and appreciation for not just the people of the state, but a civic culture where so many people get involved, whether it's in local government, whether it's in processes related to voting, whether it's in some of those town halls that go on. And it's something I'd love to see more of around the country as we face concerns over apathy in some places. And I think that that's a rich tradition that, whatever the politics come and go, something that is rightly admired around the country.
As we wrap up here, I want to ask, what does the future hold for Secretary Pete Buttigieg?
Well, right now, hopefully, just continuing to be able to get results and do everything in my power to do a good job here. We have been entrusted with an extraordinary level of resources through this infrastructure package that we're now at work delivering on everything from port improvements in Tampa to improving the streets in Berlin, which was my last visit to New Hampshire, celebrating a grant we're doing there. We're also facing enormous challenges to transportation. Some of the biggest in the modern era, the shockwaves that have happened to everything from container shipping to airline cancellations, much of it related to the pandemic, of course. But what's exciting about this moment is that those shockwaves are temporary and we're working through those. The investments we're making right now are permanent. And for the rest of my career and the rest of my life, I think I will and we will be looking back on this period and the investments that we're making right now to set up America for success in the rest of the century.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us on Close Up.
Thank you.